What's up, y'all? Shoebooty Sports coming at you, episode 146. We're almost to an episode 150 and almost to even 147. I'm your host, Graham Powell, on this screen. Bradley Brown is on the other screen. Just
Yep.
listed Bradley on his little name doohickey there for those of you watching on Spotify and YouTube. Say what's up, Bradley.
What's going on?
We got a couple things going on here and there, but first, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Ladies and gents and everyone in between, Shoebooty Sports is presented by Rhino Races. Rhino Races is a virtual race series that offers 5 different races: a 5K, 10K, a half marathon, a marathon, and the Rhino Ultra. You can sign up for one or all 5 of their races at rhinoraces.com. Run your race at your convenience, track it with your fitness app of choice, screenshot your results as proof of completion. You can submit that screenshot to rhinoraces.com under the submit results section. Once your results are verified by Rhino Races staff, your award will be shipped to you by mail. Also, check out their gear section while you're at it. They have t-shirts, wristbands, decals, and more. That's rhinoraces.com. Rhino Races is the premier virtual running series and home to the one-of-a-kind Rhino Ultra. And you can find us, Shoebooty Sports, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a like and follow while you're there. And follow us on X at Shoebooty Sports. Okay, so we've touched up basically on the Olympics the last several episodes. Lots of Olympic talk, and I miss it just because I love the Summer Olympics. But at the same time, I look forward to what's around the corner because it is nearly football season. But we're going to mesh the two a little bit with this first topic here. So apparently, NFL players are interested in competing in flag football in the Olympics in 2028 in LA. And one of those players happens to be the best in the game, Patrick Mahomes. And apparently, I saw some quotes from it's apparently current flag football players that are upset that NFL players are wanting to come into their sport and compete and I guess take their spot in the Olympics. I First of all, who's playing? Is there? I didn't know professional flag football was a thing, uh, or is it? Who are the current flag football players? Like, what does that even mean? Any clue?
I don't know. I do know that they hold tournaments for like teenagers and high schoolers for flag football, but I, maybe some college kids. Who knows?
Now, the only time I heard of flag football being played outside of, at least at the adult level, outside of intramural sports in college, was my freshman year of college at UCA. There was a guy from our hometown who was playing on our team who was a few like 3 years older than us, and it was just a bunch of us guys our age that happened to be at UCA that put together a team, all pretty much from Lone Oak, and this guy said he saw me on the field and just said, "So you're the only one that out of your friends that we would want to play or to be on our team in this tournament." That it was a big tournament that they did, flag football tournament, and they asked me if I wanted to be on the team. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it," and then I just never got like a call from him or anything like that. Maybe they just didn't have enough, but that was the only time I even heard of flag football being played outside of intramural sports in college. So I didn't even know. Well, I say that, and then I was kind of friends with a guy in Fayetteville who he was on a flag football team that was really good, and they competed in something. I don't know. I don't even know how you get word of that. Like, hey, let's do this flag football league. And I imagine it's a bunch of like you probably got a guy with one guy that can just throw, who's got a really good arm and can just kind of throw it anywhere on the field, and then just a bunch of like small guys that can run fast and jump high, and probably a tall guy on the outside. That's what I imagine it being.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a lot more to it than that, of course. Um, I remember in flag football playing quarterback, and the first game that I played against was like these guys had like 6'6" edge rushers, like in game one, and this is freshman year. They're like 6'6" game like edge rushers that could run a sub 5 second 40. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is interesting. And of course, linemen can go out to receive passes too and all that. I'm getting off topic here a little bit, but yeah, there's more to it than NFL guys just being able to step in and play. But at the same time, not much different because I mean these guys grew up playing 7-on-7, receivers, quarterbacks, all that. They're going to be able to step in and have a pretty distinct advantage over everybody else. Plus, football is our game. Like American football is our game. Um, if you're the NFL, I would love this. It's a world stage of it's a world stage for your game. Like we could have a chance to showcase our stars, at least some of them, and the world's going to see them and possibly become fans and then find a way to. I mean, they're already trying to do that with games in London, Germany, and all that, and huge turnouts on top of that. And I mean, there is a market for it. I mean, somebody showed up to a game last year, an NFL game, and I don't remember if it was London or Germany, but the person didn't have any type of gear or merch of the teams that were playing. He just happened to somebody gave him a Duke football helmet and he wore it to the game, and that was his way of representing. So there's a market for this. If I'm the NFL, I'm loving this idea. Maybe not so much if you're the Kansas City Chiefs owner, but at the same time, it's flag football. I'd say how hurt can you get? But I mean, we've seen guys go down in non-contact injuries or drills, So
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
I mean, with professional athletes or without, we're gonna dominate either way. So I don't really think it matters. But yeah, it would be cool to see, Mahomes out there throwing it, to Tyreek Hill in flag football, just burning everybody. Um,
Or Justin Jefferson or
yeah, I
um,
mean, yeah,
Jamar
just
Chase, you know.
any of the big names, yeah. But I went with Tyreek Hill because he's, probably gonna be like top two fantasy draft picks this year. So
Yeah, I only threw out a different name because we've seen that before. I mean,
yeah,
it's because the idea of like LeBron and Steph and KD playing together is just something we've never seen before. Seeing Patrick Mahomes throwing to a Justin Jefferson, just a different name, somebody, an elite player, is cool to think about. Um, it would, of course, we got 4 years till this happens. I'm going to watch every bit of that they show, even the women, just to see how it goes.
yeah. I think it depends on how many roster spots are available too. I mean, if you only have what seven playing is a 7-on-7. If you only have 10 roster spots, are you gonna waste one on a guy who can only play one way? I mean, because you're gonna have to be playing both ways.
Are you,
I'm,
or that
I'm
will they make an exception to that? I don't know. I would think you'd have
I
to
don't know.
play both ways. That would make more
Yeah, you'd
sense.
have to play both ways. And that's how the ones I've seen on TV for the youth leagues. So
Yeah. Well, if it's Patrick Mahomes, I'll make an exception. I mean, but then again, he's very athletic. He could find a spot at safety or something. But then again, it's like I don't know. It's something to think about. But the idea of, like I said, a Justin Jefferson lining up out there against some guy from Qatar trips me out, and I would love to see that. But yeah, going back to the current flag football players being upset about it. I can understand them being upset about it, but I don't even know how you become like a flag football player that's interested in competing. You know, well, yeah, in the Olympic Games, I could see the draw there, but prior to that, like, what do you? I mean, is that what you do on the weekends, or what?
Maybe it's like the traveling softball teams where they, have one of their rich friends pay the fees to go play at like Disneyland or something. Like I've heard about teams doing that, but
Yeah, I guess so. If you got the extra time and money and ability, oh, cool, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are. I say that there are, semi-pro football teams who are just a bunch of grown dudes that want to get together and still play football, relive their glory days. And I'm talking, of course, tackle football, which seems like a terrible idea for somebody that's doing it for no amount of money. Um, yeah, I think I said this. I might have said this before on the show. I was asked to go cover a semi-pro football game in Jacksonville, which was ridiculous. So I should have just said no. I don't want to do that. But then again, it's like I'm not going to turn down money either. But it was kind of just a big joke. I mean, they were taking it very seriously, but I don't think anybody else was. Um, I was keeping stats, and uh, the guy ran for about 6 yards, and the guy was like 12-yard gain. I was like, no, that wasn't. No, he was like, well, we're just trying to. We had a little make our stats look good. Like he's openly admitting this to me, and it's not like a big league or anything. I mean, it's like who can we get to play us that's in the surrounding area. Um, Flag football would be more popular than that, I would think, because you're much less likely to get hurt. Um, I don't know. We'll see what happens in 4 years. Either way, we spent too much time on this. Let's move on. All right. So, checking out the ESPN page today, they put out a big feature on Steve McNair and his time at Alcorn State. And it was like 1994, I believe it was. I read a little bit of the feature. I mean, it's a really long feature story. It looked to be really good. I just didn't have time to read all that. But I remember living at my house, the red house on 1203 Fairview in Lone Oak. And that was one team that my dad would check out, and I would go in and watch that with him. And it's something I had never seen before. Alcorn State and they got a lot of national attention for this. We're lining up five wide pretty much every play, like five wide every play. McNair threw over 5,000 yards. That's about 5,300 yards, a little more than that, like 46, 43 touchdowns. Was a Heisman finalist, and that's how I knew who Steve McNair was before he went pro and went on to have a pretty solid pro career. But that was the first time because we of course grew up watching. I mean, really paying attention to football starting out in the early '90s. At least that's my earliest memories of it, like the Dallas Cowboy dominance,
Yep.
especially over the Bills in the Super Bowl. Those are my earliest memories of football and like really being interested in it. And of course, back then it was run heavy. I mean, you passed some, but you ran the ball. That's how you won. You ran the ball and you played defense. And to see a team line up with five wide, just throwing it every play was very cool and just different. It's just very different. And when we got to high school, Pulaski Academy was who was our rival at the time. They did that pretty much. I mean, they were four, sometimes five, but they were usually four wide, just your traditional spread, four wide with a running back in the backfield, and they were throwing it every play. And I believe CAC did that in our conference too, same type of thing. That's something Pulaski Academy was known for. Of course, our junior year, their quarterback then, Thomas Thrash, set the national touchdown record with 77 touchdown passes that season. And that record stood for a really long time. But what's your earliest memory? Mine being Alcorn State, and that's what made me think of this. What was your earliest memory of seeing like a five wide or just a spread formation where a team was throwing it every play rather than running the ball 2 times and then throwing it if you had to?
It was probably Alcorn State. Seeing the highlights, because it almost looked like a different sport to me. Like it's almost like they were cheating. I did not know you could do that time. So
Yeah, same.
yeah.
It was just different. It was like I didn't know that teams could do that. It's like nobody did it except them. But I was like, I didn't know you could do that. It was just a new thing to be introduced to in the game of football. Very cool. My earliest memory of Steve McNair, and he was Steve McNair. He was great at it, and it was very fun to watch. And of course, that made me think too of just Steve McNair's professional career and how good he really was for that few year stretch, or like late '90s, early 2000s. Almost got a Super Bowl, almost about that far from it.
Oh,
But that kind of that made me think of that. When's the first time that we remember seeing that? And I guess but for both of us, it was Alcorn State. I didn't know if you were paying attention then. Of course, the internet wasn't around then. It was, but we were all watching TV and all watching football on
yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays too. As a defensive player, though, I hated playing that type of game. Hated it. Being an inside linebacker was not what I wanted. I did not want to be dropping back into coverage every play. I wanted somebody to run the ball, and I wanted to chase them down and hit them. Like that's what I was made to do at the inside linebacker position. So when we were playing PA and CAC, that was the least fun I had. I'm not gonna say it wasn't fun. It was fun. It was different. Dollar Way too. That the last game of our junior year, they were in the spread, but they would run out of it a lot too. But I was in coverage pretty much every play, and it was different, but it wasn't as fun as just being able to read where the ball was going to go and then hit the guy. Probably because I was better at that than coverage, so that's probably why I had more fun with it too. But yeah, just I hated playing that type of. Hate's a strong word. It was unique, but I didn't like it near as much. I'll put it that way.
You didn't prefer it, yeah.
Yeah.
As a defensive lineman, it didn't make me any difference. So
Yeah, I guess it did. I guess it didn't matter. Or maybe it would be more fun, I would think, as a defensive lineman because I guess you get to go after the quarterback. At least
yeah.
if you're an edge rusher. Um, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite thing at all to play against. But very fun to watch if you're just viewing, and play in if you're a receiver or quarterback. All right, so moving on. So we actually technically start college football season this weekend. We've got what four or five games, I think 4 games. The big one being Florida State at Georgia Tech Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Number 10 Florida State at Georgia Tech. I would imagine Florida State would take care of business, but you never know. First game of the year. You just and Georgia Tech has a unique style of play.
Yeah.
Being what the wishbone wing is it the wishbone they run?
That'd be my guess. I
Yeah, I
mean, I
believe it's
wouldn't
the
think it'd be
wishbone.
PT.
What?
So I wouldn't think it'd be the other one. So
Yeah, I think it's the wishbone, and they've been running that forever, and they're pretty good at it. It's fun to watch when it's done well. Um, but like Navy and their triple option that's fun to watch when when they're not playing an elite team. Like it was fun to watch them run that against Notre Dame last season for about a series, and then Notre Dame caught on to it, and then they weren't able to do anything else out of it. But yeah, college football technically kicks off this weekend. Our Razorbacks will have another show before they play next Thursday. So not this Thursday, but the next. That'll be really when week 1 officially starts. This weekend is technically week 0, which doesn't make much sense to me. But it's not week 1 either. So I guess that kind of makes sense. I don't know. But that's the game I'm going to watch, Florida State and Georgia Tech. I don't know that I'll watch any of the others. Probably will if I have nothing else going on. But excuse me, that made me think well about college football previews, pick'ems for Arkansas, all that, our school. We'll do that next week. We'll save that for next week's episode, just because we're not there quite yet. Just week 0 coming on now. As we were getting ready to come on the show, though, I did see that a guy who works for or writes for Pig Trail Nation. He picked. He went ahead and did the pick 'em for Arkansas, game by game. Guess what he picked for Arkansas's overall record to be?
4-8.
Remember, this is a home state reporter.
6-6.
Flip the 4-8. He's got 8-4.
He must be on some pretty good stuff.
With win, let's I'm gonna go back with wins over Ole Miss, which to be honest wouldn't shock me. I'd be surprised, but it wouldn't shock me. Arkansas plays Ole Miss well, even when they're not good.
Yeah, we're gonna win one that we're not supposed to.
But he's got them beating Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, and Oklahoma State. Yeah, I don't see it. We'll save ours for next week.
Oklahoma State and LSU, they're early in the season. Maybe they're not hitting on all cylinders yet. I don't know how you come up with that.
Maybe saying Jaden Daniels is not going to be there anymore, but then again, I mean, we don't have KJ. I'm looking at Talon Green's numbers. I'm not impressed. I haven't seen much of any footage of the guy throwing, but it's only going to help that he has Bobby Petrino coaching him. And as much as I liked KJ's not known for his accuracy, so I could see why that wouldn't work in a Petrino offense. I don't know anything about Talon Green, but we're going to find out really quick.
I'm real curious to see how KJ is going to do over at Central Florida on the Gus bus. We'll see.
I would say I think it would go well. I think that offense suits him more than a pass heavy offense like Petrino's going to have. That would be better suited for KJ, what Gus likes to do, and that's run the football first and throw at it. He likes a dual threat quarterback, Gus Malzahn. He's more successful with a dual threat quarterback. That's perfect for KJ. The problem is you're in the Big 12 now. You're not in the American Conference or whatever they were in. So you've got a much tougher schedule now. So those UCF teams have not had those 10, 12 win seasons like we've seen, at least in fairly recent years. It's been a lot. It's been lucky to be 6-6 the last couple of years.
It's been a while since their proclaimed national title, right?
It's been a while since their national championship. Yes. What year was it? I don't even remember. 20. Yeah, I can't even remember. 2015, 18, something.
I want to say 15. I don't know.
Yeah, that's been a while. What was Scott Frost? Yeah, because then he went on to Nebraska and then failed miserably at Nebraska. And I thought he would do well at Nebraska, being an alum and doing what he did at UCF. I mean, you won a national championship at UCF. I mean, come on. Of course, you're going to do great at Nebraska, and
Yep.
it just didn't work out.
No, it did not.
Whatever happened to that guy? I guess he got paid and just bounced for a little while. He might be sitting at the house. Like, I mean, because they had to pay him.
Yeah.
They paid him to go home. They paid him to say, "No, we're gonna go another way." Maybe Matt Rule can turn around. I don't know. Because we did grow up watching dominant Nebraska teams in the '90s, so it's weird seeing them fall so hard like they have. But we'll talk more about college football next week with some pick'em stuff going on, but we have had some football taking place. We've had preseason football. It's been officially underway. I watched a little bit of it this weekend. I watched at least the first quarter of the Chiefs game Saturday, I think it was. Saturday or Sunday, one of the two. I think it was Saturday. But the Chiefs starters played nearly the entire first quarter, and they looked like the world champs. And Patrick Mahomes did a behind the back pass to Travis Kelce, pretty much on the money. That was the highlight of the weekend for me as far as football watching goes, because I mean it's Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes stuff. So very cool to watch. They looked like the world champs. They looked like they were hitting on all cylinders. Looked like Rashee Rice is going to have is going to kind of be he's going to have a much bigger year. I'm guessing he's going to be my my sneak kind of pick. I'm hoping to pick
Yeah.
him up in fantasy, but not too early.
It's always tough to tell with the Chiefs players, not named Kelsey or Mahomes, what their output's going to be week to week. So,
But they need a receiver to step up. I think they want it to be Rashee Rice. Of course, they drafted Xavier Worthy out of Texas. I'm sure he's going to be asked to do a lot too. But I think Rashee Rice, having been in the system for a year, you could tell they wanted to get him involved quite a bit early. I could see a big year out of him, if he's able to stay healthy. So he's going to be that kind of pick that I hope to get, not early, but I might take him around earlier than maybe some would. I don't know. He's ranked in the 30s. So I might have to go second or third, just depending on who's available at that point when I pick him up.
yeah.
But we don't do
That,
flag football. We don't do fantasy football drafts this early. Everybody knows that.
mine's coming up on Saturday. I thought it was next week, but it's this weekend for some reason. So,
Yeah, you've still got to get me a spot in that league at some point. I guess I'll settle for my free version again this year. But other than Mahomes and the Chiefs, players that look good, how much did you watch? Did you see any of Bo Nix and Caleb Williams?
yeah, I've seen Caleb Williams do his best impression of oh, what's his name? Just went to he was their last quarterback. Just went to the Steelers. Uh, tell me, I'm blanking. I don't know
Just
why.
Justin
Yeah,
football.
Justin Fields. Yeah,
There you go.
he did his best impression of Justin Fields running around and making a long throw. He looks pretty good. He's looking comfortable. And I did see a little bit of Bo Nix. I've seen his highlights. Uh, he kind of looks like what I expected him to look like. I mean, he's Bo Nix. So, uh, maybe not this early. I didn't expect him to be that comfortable, but he looks like he's coming along.
No, I mean you say early. I mean all these guys are like in their mid 20s at this
Oh
point.
yeah. I mean, Bo Nix is what, 30? I
He
mean,
played 5 years of college football, right? And you played in the SEC. You played at Oregon. He was dominant at Oregon his last 2 years, especially last year. I mean, his numbers were outstanding. He threw like like 45 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, like
Yeah.
4,600 yards, like a 78% completion percentage. I mean, ridiculous numbers. And so and to see him and to have Sean Payton coaching you on what was a pretty or a not terrible team. Like their over under right now is 5.5 wins. I'm taking the over on that if I'm betting. That feels like a pretty safe bet to me. Then
Yeah.
again, I thought the Broncos would be really good with Russell Wilson, so we'll see. But I don't
Well,
know. Go
they
ahead.
started clicking, but it was a little bit too late in the season. Like once December got there, they went 4 for 5 on wins. I mean, it started clicking just a little bit too late for the Broncos last season.
True. Well, I thought Caleb Williams looked good. I thought Bo Nix looked good from what I saw. I think they're taking care of Bo Nix some. I mean, they're taking care of all these guys, Jaden Daniels, et cetera, who's been named the starter in Washington already, which I'm cool with. Um, yeah, I mean, the rookie's looking good, but it's different now. Rookie quarterbacks are a lot more prepared than they ever have been coming into the league. One, they're older. Two, growing up, going to 7-on-7s and all that, playing since in a lot of cases since you've been a freshman, like all these other guys have. It's you're more prepared at this point than rookies in the past have been. So I'm not too surprised. Did you catch Tua's comments on Brian Flores?
Yes, yes, I did.
I listened to that today. I just appreciated that it was honest.
Yeah.
It was an honest take from a guy who grew was molded by Saban at Alabama. So he was heavily coached on how to deal with the media. And of course, this was local, Dan Levitard's show. But I just appreciate it wasn't BS. It was just honesty. It wasn't griping. It was just honesty. And as an ex reporter, I always appreciated coaches that would give me an honest answer. Some of my coaches who weren't even necessarily my favorite people, they were often my favorite to interview because they would tell me the truth. Like they would give me an absolute honest answer to a question I gave them, and it just wasn't the same recycled BS that coaches are taught to tell the media. Like the guys that would actually tell me the truth and what was going on, and just how they felt and dealt with the situation. I always appreciated those guys the most in interviews. So I thought it was pretty cool of Tua to do that, and he's correct.
Yeah.
Because as a player, I mean, go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it. But being a being a guy that didn't respond well to people that yelled at him, I could understand that completely. I always got along better with a coach Steelman who would pull me aside and talk to me, and rather than just yell at me. Like if you just yell at
Yeah.
me all the time, I'm just going to tune you out. Like it's all you're doing is making me mad, and I don't want to listen to
Yep.
you. But if you teach me and just talk to me and tell me, yeah, I'll be a lot easier to coach then. So I appreciated the honesty from Tua and agreed with it too. Uh, Brian Flores, obviously Belichick coaching tree, old school. Um, and then Mike McDaniel, completely different, completely different styles. And I could see wanting to, I could see being with my personality too, being able to thrive a lot more under Mike McDaniel than a Brian Flores who's just rah rah yelling at you kind of guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did appreciate that answer from Richard, or excuse me, from Tua. Okay, any players, quarterbacks in particular, that you think are not necessarily going to have a great year or even pan out? Whether it be a rookie, guys going into their first or second year, who sticks out to you that might not necessarily, maybe they won't be the starting quarterback in a year or two, if that makes sense.
Oh, I mean, first one that comes to mind for me is Danger Russ Wilson. mean, I
Hey,
don't know. From what
he actually looked pretty decent, right? Numbers wise
yeah, numbers wise,
in
but
the
I
preseason.
keep I keep seeing where, Fields is making a case for him to be a starter, which I wouldn't get anyways, but I don't know, man. I don't know if Russ has dropped off for the last season or two, or I can see where he doesn't make it through the season being the starter.
I can see that too. It sounds like I haven't watched them play, so I can't
Me
say
neither.
looking at them. But looking at the numbers, they're pretty close. And if it's going to be close, then you're probably going to go with Fields. But at the same time, you can. I think I would, if it were me, I would start Russ. And if it starts to go remotely bad, I would just plug Fields in there because if you start Fields and then take him out for Russ, it's going to be a lot harder to plug him back in later on, as opposed to starting with Russ and then if it doesn't work out, then you can plug Fields in there, and that just seems like it'd be an easier transition. For me, it's Anthony Richardson with the Colts. I see his photo pop up on all these things, and I'm just I saw really, of course, we only saw a little bit of him last year. He was playing like he did in college. Just too physical for the quarterback position. After game one, Trevor Lawrence told him, "Hey, don't take these hits at this level. It's different here at this level." Didn't do anything different. He was out shortly thereafter. Plus, I don't think the guy is that great of a thrower, at least as far as accuracy goes. Of course, he's
No,
got an arm and athletic ability, but I just don't see him having the. I don't know the. I can't. I just don't see him being able to switch his game up to where it's going to fit into the NFL. I don't see it working out. I think in a year or two they're going to try it because why? I mean, you spent the third overall pick on him. Of course, you're going to try it, but I don't see it working out in a couple of years. That's just me. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but that's one that sticks out to me as one that I don't think will pan out in the NFL. Anthony Richardson. All right, we'll get out of here on this. The WNBA season started back up this last week. The Indiana Fever played over the weekend, Sunday. They actually played Friday, but they played Sunday too, and I was able to watch that game. I like to catch Caitlin Clark as much as I can, and her Fever beat the Seattle Storm at home. Did you see any of that, or any of the back and forth stuff after with the Seattle Storm throwing a little temper tantrum
I
after the
seen bits of the tantrum, on the online on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I flipped over and watched, I don't know, a couple of minutes of the fourth quarter, flipped it back and forth. But by the time I tuned in, they had it well in hand. So
Yeah, CC didn't start off well shooting, but passing game was on point. Shot was falling late. Kelsey Mitchell played well. Lexi Hull had a hell of a game. She's an emerging player for that team. They're starting to get it together, and just seeing Seattle's little tempered Skylar Diggins, just it was just more pettiness from her and her coach. I don't know. It was ridiculous to see, but we'll catch up on that more next week. But we're going to be out of time, so we'll have to see y'all next week. Till then, I'm Grandpa. That's Bradley Brown. Deuces, y'all.
peace.